Mics are on, folks.
Yep.
Check. Is it showing anything? Good evening. I would like to call the January 6th, 2025 meeting of the Town of Cicero Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Ms. Robeson, please call the roll. Here.
Mr. Rabia, Ms. Luckett. Here. Mr. Beck.
Here.
Mr. Mays.
Here.
Mr. Stanton.
Here. Please take note of the fire exits located in the front and the rear of this room. At this time, please silence all cell phones and pagers. Please note that tonight's meeting is being live streamed on YouTube and is also being recorded. This time, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to open our organizational meeting. We are combining this meeting with our regular meeting as a separate meeting was not warranted. So our first matter is appointment of Zoning Board of Appeals clerk for 2025. I would like to make a motion that we reappoint Ms. Marie Robeson to the position of Zoning Board of Appeals clerk, assuming you still want to work with us. Ms. Robeson has been working with us for the past 3 years and has done a great job recording and publishing our minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
It's a unanimous second. If you wouldn't mind calling the roll.
Mr. Rabia,
Yes to the motion.
Ms. Luckett. Yes to the motion. Mr. Beck.
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Mays.
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes to the motion. Congratulations. Second is appointment of the Zoning Board of Appeals attorney for 2025. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Terry J. Kerwin Jr. of Kerwin Law Firm, PC, to the position of Zoning Board of Appeals attorney for 2025. Mr. Kerwin has been working with our board almost as long as I have been a member and has been a valuable advisor to us. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Rosen, please call the roll.
Mr. Rabia,
Yes to the motion.
Ms. Luckett. Yes to the motion. Mr. Beck.
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Mays.
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes to the motion. Congratulations, Mr. Kerwin.
Thank you.
Third is a review of the continuing education requirements for 2024 as well as 2025. Please remember that as board members, we are required to have 4 continuing education hours per year. Please make sure you document your hours for 2024 and provide them to both myself and our town clerk, Tracy Kozelman, by the end of January. Please note that I do have discretion to determine what constitutes training, so please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Please also remember that you are entitled to 2 hours of training time for participating in any training sessions that we have. For 2025, please be on the lookout for notices regarding any training offered through the town. If the board has a month with no applications, we may elect to hold a live training session. Then lastly, I'd like to acknowledge the reappointments of Rob Bick and Christopher Daniel. Thank you both for your continued service to the town. And our organizational meeting is now closed. Has everyone read the minutes of the December 2nd, 2024 meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Any corrections?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
By Mr. Bick. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Mays. If you would, please call the roll.
Mr. Rabia,
Yes to the motion.
Ms. Luckett. Yes to the motion. Mr. Beck.
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Mays.
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes to the motion. The Cicero Town Board acknowledges the importance of full public participation at all public meetings, and therefore we urge all who wish to address those in attendance to please come to the microphone located in the front of the room. At this time, I will make a motion that all actions taken tonight are type 2 actions and have a negative impact that is no impact on the environment unless otherwise indicated. Do I have a second?
Second.
When you're ready, please call the roll.
Mr. Rabia,
Yes to the motion.
Ms. Luckett,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Bick,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Mays.
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes to the motion. I will briefly review the process for tonight's meeting for the benefit of those present that have never been before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Each applicant will have an opportunity to describe their project. The board will then ask questions about the project. I will then open a public hearing where people will be able to speak for or against the proposed variance. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to respond to public input and provide additional information. Board members will then be allowed to ask follow-on questions. The board will then openly discuss the 5 factors that contribute to the final decision. Please note that this board does not have a pre-agenda meeting, so there is no prior discussion of cases outside of this meeting. And then finally, a motion will be made either approving or denying the requested variance, seconded and voted upon. So our first case tonight is a continuation of our December 2nd case for applicant Bob Cutlers for a request for subdivision for properties on 5701 and 5703 State Route 31. Just as a note, everybody, we left the public hearing open and requested the applicant consider the potential for an adjustment of the lot line between the two properties, the demolition of the garage, or a combination of the two properties if this option was allowed. I did consult with Mr. Procopio prior to this meeting, and we did both come to the same conclusion that a combination is a viable option in this situation.
Right.
So welcome back, Mr. Coyer. If you could provide us with any updates, we'd appreciate it.
Yep, so Tim Coyer, I Newsy and Romans Land Surveying. Does anybody want any smaller maps? What I've already handed out, sorry. Good,
Yeah, please.
yes?
I'll take them. Thank you.
Yep. You want this? Yeah, please.
Let me call for this.
I'm sorry, sir. So somebody that, I'm sorry. If you,
Yep. Absolutely. So. Okay. That one is probably the original where we have the line straight. Okay. That was what we brought the last time. So the idea is right now, this is the existing tax parcel. There's one tax parcel here and we have one tax parcel here. The existing commercial building is here. The existing residential structure and garage is here. Right now, they're looking to combine this portion with this existing lot. So it would be creating this lot here and this lot here. It would essentially separate the residential use with the commercial use. All the parking and everything would stay with the commercial use. There would be no interconnection. That's why we have this landscaping here. This has its own existing driveway already. This one has its own existing driveway already. There is right now a connection between the two, and we're proposing to eliminate that connection, basically separating both uses for the future use of this as a church. Last time we were here, like we said, the question was specifically with regards to this property line back in this area and whether or not the property owner would be willing to take the garage down. He does not want to take the garage down. So he wants to keep it up, if that's possible. The other option that we show on the other slide is jogging the property line. Specifically, we made sure we kept it 11 feet. I know for the meeting last time, we wanted to keep it the same distance from the existing house, which is 10.9. So we kept it 11 feet around that existing garage. And that's why we revised our request for a variance for lot 2 to 10.9. Because it's actually the shorter distance between the 11 feet that we're creating next to the garage.
okay, Marie, could you pull up the second one, please? Thank you.
So this is the new property line right there. Doesn't really affect too much of what we're doing over here with the site plan. We were able to shift the parking Still have the same amount of parking and everything that we were proposing originally. Again, this has been in front of the planning board, for a couple meetings. We've gotten pretty much through all their approval process. We have to get the, variances approved specifically for the lot line adjustment so that we can move that portion forward, and we're doing it, and, adjust the property lines accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
To be clear, your client did not want to combine the two lots.
He does not want to combine the two lots, no.
So that gets to my current opinion on this, because once I found out that you could actually, that combining the lots was an option, we're really, in my view, just swapping one bad condition for another, where we've got two non-conforming lots. One was narrow, one was wide. Now we're just flipping it. So one, the other's narrow and the other's wide. When I look forwards with this, it seems to me like it makes much more sense to combine these lots, because then you have a chance, I believe, of reducing one of the variances, which is the lot width. We maintain some non-conforming structures there, but it's nothing different from what's already there. Looking back at some of these things, some options that we've presented before, if we have a non-conforming lot like this, we always ask, or we sometimes ask, if the applicant had the ability to purchase another lot and combine it, would they do that? Seems like in this case, with them being in the same ownership, that this is a definite possibility here. And if it's owned by the same person, unless there were plans to sell it later on, it seems like combining these, at least in my mind, is the better way to go.
Okay. I guess my only disagreement is the whole fact that you're gonna have two separate uses on the same parcel. And the whole idea of the landscaping and reducing the pavement and the interconnectivity of everything is to separate the two uses. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is separate the two uses from a commercial use and the residential use. And in the future, yes, maybe in the future, when something else happens, that they can all be combined or separated differently if somebody else comes in and buys all these properties. But again, the whole point of this specific use is to separate, or this specific application is to separate the uses. I guess that's why the applicant is, and myself look at it like, why are we gonna combine it and have two uses on one parcel, when even at the planning board stage, we were all about separating the two uses, specifically landscaping, taking away the drives and all that. I guess that's my only confusion. I understand the board's concern about creating a quote unquote non-conforming lot. The way I guess, again, the way I look at it, you have a small residential use that's going to continue with a smaller front yard width. And you have a larger commercial use that's not, you're almost making it better, because you're making the commercial use have the more road frontage and the residential use have the smaller road frontage. And specifically the way it's being used today, the residential use is only using that bit of the property, and the commercial use, even when it was in use, it was using all of this portion as well. So if you drove by it today, it looks like the property line should be here, where we're putting it, and not here where it is. So I guess that's my only argument against combining them, is the way it sits today, the occupation and the way everything is built today, the property line should be here. And I guess that's the reason I think it's better to keep it separated, but again, that's just my opinion.
Understood.
Wouldn't,
ahead.
can I, are you okay?
No,
Can I
go
ask?
ahead.
If they were combined, wouldn't the house have to be a secondary use, like a rectory? Wouldn't that be a requirement? No?
No.
You can
I
still
mean, it's
rent
a
the-
non-conforming use now and will remain a non-conforming use. I mean, it's a residential use in a commercial zone. So that use can
even if they're
continue.
combined.
Yes.
which I think was our eureka moment from last month, right?
Yeah, and that's honestly what I personally can't get past because it seems like we've got the opportunity now to do something better than somebody who owns both parcels where in the future, if this were to come, that may not be the case.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I appreciate, Tim and the team, changing the lot line based on what we talked about last month, right? And I think they nailed it based on what we talked about, but I don't think we knew that we could combine these lots, right? Whatever reason, we talked about it, but I don't think we were 100% sure last month. No, he wasn't.
I don't know, if they were combined, I could see the parking spreading over to the residential side, and I don't like the idea of combining them, the two uses.
That's a fair point.
Could be a condition.
I don't know, I'm looking at this as I'm pleased someone wants to do something with that old building. It's not a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week use, so to speak. But if the properties can be combined, I think that's probably a better way to go.
Tim, in the spirit of talking about the environmental conditions and physical impacts, we talked a little bit about snow removal last time.
Yep.
Right. It's a pretty significant area of snow, and talked about, can you get that volume of snow, but where do you want to put it? Right? Is there enough space based on the way you have it laid out to clear that area every time it snows?
Yeah, there should be, again. We could zoom in, but understand that this is the property line, this dark line here. And right now, as it sits that helps, yes. As it sits today, the existing pavement goes right up to here.
Yep.
Okay, and we're eliminating all this pavement through here for snow removal. And we have this area up here for snow removal. And again, this is not a high use. Right now they have, I think, 7 or 8 members of their church. Again, Sundays and sometimes Saturdays, so it's not a very intense use compared to what in theory could go here.
But I think regardless of the use, you're gonna clear the entire lot
Yep.
each time you clear it, right?
Yep.
So however much snow we get each time, you're gonna have to put it someplace, right?
Correct.
I trust you've worked out the math.
Anything else before I go to the public hearing again? Okay.
Well,
Cool.
we don't have a map where both parcels are combined. We don't have that re-subdivision.
We do not. Assuming the applicant was willing to consider that option,
So in theory, if we combined it, I'm just looking at this real quick. We don't need the variance for the 100 feet. We would still need, I guess the question is, do we still need the variance for the existing here,
Anything? No, pre-existing, right?
3.9? Because the side yards for all this go away.
Right.
Right.
right?
Side yards all go away. You have an existing non-conforming 3.9 over here that's always been there.
I think everything goes away, right? Or no,
Does.
Except for the sign.
yeah,
Except the sign.
Yeah.
And again, if the board feels that combining the lots is the way to go, if anything, we get the sign I'm not saying we get it approved. I'm saying we talk about the signing, at least get the variances cleared up that we can clear up, ignoring the side yard setbacks and all that. And if the applicant wants to and is in favor of combining them, we can move forward with at least combining them and move the site plan forward. If he doesn't want to combine them and it just shuts everything down, it is what it is, but at least we don't have to come back again.
Right.
That's where I'm going with this.
That makes sense to me. Steve, are you okay with
Yeah.
that? Okay. All right, so we'll continue the public hearing at this point. Would anyone speak for this? Would anyone speak against this? I know some people were here last time, that for the people who were here last time, if there's anything new, let's not readdress the same issues again, but if there's something new, please bring it up. And don't forget to state your name and where you live, please.
Yes, my name is Diane Goodwin. I own the property, 5709, Route 30, State Route 31. And now my question is about the snow removal. So what the plan is, I'm understanding here, is the snow is going to be piled up against our fence. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I can't necessarily answer that question, but I do believe that the
Okay, well,
applicant
that's
has
a concern
provided,
of mine.
a buffer zone. And
Okay.
Tim, if you want to, would you mind?
In theory, yes, the fence is right here on the property line.
Yeah.
So yes, there would be snow between the asphalt and the fence.
So I think as opposed to last time where the plow blade may be coming within inches of your fence,
No.
right.
Damn.
So I think in this case, they'd only be able to make it to the edge of the parking lot, which gives you that buffer.
I think why we pulled the pavement away. So the new pavement in theory, if this all goes forward, is at least 10 feet away from that fence. So there is room there now for snow removal. Instead of, as this, he's 100% right, the pavement's almost right up against the fence, and they are pushing snow right up against that fence.
Actually, looks like it's closer to 15 or 16, I think.
Yeah, it's 15.
Yeah.
For sure, but it's 15 most of the way down.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Michelle Service and I live at 5700 West Seymour Street or Route 31, right across the street. Own the home and have been there all my life. I could tell you stories of what it used to be like on Route 31. For anyone who's lived here all their life, it's changed very much. I'm very concerned with the traffic, which everybody has been on 31 and knows what it's like nowadays. But not only do I live it for driving on it, I live it for living on it right there. There is a great concern for added traffic. Right now, there's cars honking, accidents happening, glass broken on the road. There's businesses further west that the businesses are fine. It's not that, but everyone flies through there and nobody wants to slow down. Somebody's turning into a business. And they're veering out around or they're not looking, as most people nowadays are otherwise occupied with phones and so on. And the brakes are screeching and there's accidents, and I've seen a lot of it. And I get concerned even living in the house, if there's going to be one in my front yard or into the corner of my house, which there's been some near misses over the years, and it's only getting worse. So I'm concerned about the traffic, and I'm also concerned about any extra, like the noise pollution, the air pollution with extra vehicles going in and out of there. And I'm wondering, what is the construction going to look like? Is that old building that looks pretty, you know, a rundown, going to be demolished and something else put in? So that brings other concerns down the road. Those are my basic concerns. I also can't tell for sure by this map if the driveway stays the same, considering that there's parking and everything there, or if it brings it closer in line. You know, it's pretty much directly across from mine, by a couple of feet, probably a slight diagonal, but I'm wondering. So those are my concerns. You know, I don't have any concern about progress, and if something's more usable down the road, or if something looks better, I understand all of those things. But I do, living there, have these concerns that I expressed. And, again, I'm not too sure about, I can't tell with this map if the driveway changes and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Mr. Coyer, would you mind addressing some of that or as much as you can?
As far as use and, overall, traffic concerns, we did go through all that with the site, with the planning board. This did not raise to any type of, traffic study detail. Like I said, this is a very small church. Right now, like I said, I think they have 8 to 10 members. Then the pastor, it's not going to be a high generated, traffic. I think that they have 2 nights a week that they are there, that includes the Sunday. And I think once a month, they have an event where we had to have, I think, 15 spaces or 15 to 20 spaces available for an event that they have once a month. This is, again, compared to what has been there and what's going, that could go there, this very low traffic. Did the county, didn't bring up any traffic concerns with their county referral, even on the very request? Like I said, the town didn't have, planning board didn't have any traffic concerns. We did provide a rendering. The building is going to get renovated and fixed up to look nice. There's a rendering that we had for the planning board that has been submitted. Planning board has accepted it. And I think that's all. Right?
No, I think that was all. I'm also thinking, as you say, you're renovating it about like water hookup and all of that. And, I think, I don't know how that will apply, but, I think the water hookup for that whole area is in my front yard, which might mean, something.
Actually, the water going down. Once or twice a week is actually. First, we're doing one light, but we're renovating the other lights that we're putting up the wall packs on the building. If I remember correctly, yeah. I apologize for the plans. But there's no light spillage. Really not gonna be anything done outside, so there's no sign issues that you have. We reduced the amount of seating that's even allowed in the building. They're not, they only have a certain amount of pews in the building, so you can't overcrowd it, and you can't overpark it. So they don't have the ability to oversee it. Yeah, a lot of those concerns were brought up at the planning board level, and a lot of those concerns we had to address with the planning.
Okay.
No, go right ahead.
Which brings up, I understood that any business idea or whatever had to go to the zoning board first, then the planning board. Like I said last time, we didn't know anything about this whole thing was in the works. We're literally the next door neighbor.
So and I did a little bit of research on that, because I was caught a little unawares when you said you weren't made aware of it. Any proposed use in this district, commercial, has to go in front of the planning board first. The only reason they would come in front of the zoning board is if they needed a variance like this, or if there was a non-conforming feature that needed to be reaffirmed, which is exactly what's going on here. But that's all predicated by the planning board actually buying into the concept first. So unfortunately, you don't get, contiguous neighbors do not get informed for planning board meetings. That's Steve, if
Right, site plan approvals don't require public hearings, although all planning board meetings are open to the public and they have a portion of the meeting where they can speak about any active application before the board. So you really have to pay attention to the agendas and the announcements to see if something's coming up in your area.
So with all that said, I don't have a copy of the renderings either, but I'm sure Steve would be more than willing. His folks are very helpful in the planning zoning office, and they probably wouldn't have an issue with if you wanted to come in and take a look at any of the planning board documents.
Right, and there will be future meetings with the planning board, so this has not been approved at the planning board level yet.
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm not familiar with what Mr. LeJudas owns as far as other property. But I believe there is other property. Is once this, if it is approved, then will there be another proposal to increase? I heard the word subdivision, and I don't know if that only applies to this property and how it's being rearranged, or if it includes other plans down the road.
That we don't know because the applicant hasn't relayed that to us, but just so everybody here in attendance knows, when we talk about subdivision, that's a very general term for moving a lot line, combining two things, separating things. It kind of fits in a whole bag of different options that could happen. In this case, the proposal was to move a lot line, but I think, as you could tell from some of the conversation here, we're talking about combining it to get a larger property for the future. But just these two properties, nothing else.
Oh, yeah. On that, in that parking lot, the space that's right by our fence, there's a power line that just really hangs low. I'm sure that'll have to be addressed. I mean, a taller person couldn't even, you almost hit it when you're
So
going there,
could,
unless they changed it since last time I saw
whereabouts?
it.
Because there's this,
Right at where,
The tree is showing, well, there's a big pine and a smaller tree. The trees sit about a foot or two. Well, actually, one is almost on the property line. And the branches from that go into the tree, and he never touched that. I've actually had to be careful and cut the limbs off the tree and have them fall and not disturb the line. Supposedly, there's still power to the house in that, so because I've at times seen lights inside the building. And the line, I don't know what the reg of how high off the ground it must maintain before it goes into the building, but it actually droops and is close to about 8 to 9 feet off the ground.
Marie, were you able to catch all that?
Some of it.
If we're gonna have a protracted conversation, you really gotta come up and get at the microphone because otherwise we can't capture it. So what I need to know though, because it seems like you're talking about this house, which is your residence, is it the low power lines? Are you talking about this one?
Okay,
It's
right
not
where
his
that
property.
tree is, down in the corner where they wanted to push the snow onto our property.
These three trees.
Yeah, and they changed their mind and they're gonna put a buffer in there along the fence line. And that, okay. There where there's a big pine. They don't
So all
they don't
those-
show it in the map, but, right,
So all those three trees are sitting on your property.
yeah. This is a pine. This is a huge pine, and that's also a pine. But right over here, in this section, right near the property line, is a box elder. Okay, and he's done nothing as far as trimming the trees. Just like in the back property, there was a bunch of box elders, and he came to me and asked me if I was gonna go ahead and take them down. I said, anything that goes over our property line, he can take care of, which he did very little to do that. And that whole roof on that building is not safe. And he's got, just in front of the building, there's electrical plug-in he must have had for his plows in that's illegal, because it could have been hit by the plow and opened up and created electrical shock threat.
So, sir, as we talked about last time, any specific building issues will be handled by our codes department as work progresses on it. The three
Right,
trees,
the
the three
wire-
trees that are shown on the survey right now are on your property. So what you're saying
There-
is there's additional,
There's a pole
trees.
there. He knows where the pole is and it runs down through right there. But
It's going this way.
the other concern I have is, okay, you're jettisoning out, you're putting in this, aesthetic, border between the properties, then you're jettisoning over that garage. He does not use that garage. It's never used for the residents to park a vehicle in it. Or all I can say is that he might have some stuff stored in there. So I don't know why he's objecting to moving it over, because he has enough, and he could also rotate the building and put it horizontally to the building in question, that's gonna be the church, and have it so that the person can drive in and make a left turn into the garage, or move it over to the other side. Because you can go ahead and jack that up, because I don't believe there's a foundation underneath it. And move that over, and the cost to move that over and not have to deal with a variance at all would be ideal, to put it on the west side of the house instead of having it on the east side of the northeast side. In that to me would make it more functional, and also bring up the lot value to the present owner. It's because he owns the whole thing. He actually owns all the way down to the blue house. Because they have the awning company that their dad started in the area. And his dad bought the 3 houses to the east. And he bought Smith's house. This was one Smith. And he also bought the Smith house on the other side in that. And he owns back here, because we have a young man that drives a motorcycle, and he did drive on our property with his motorcycle. Cause I saw the tracks when I mowed it in that. And that's another thing about, what, I'm worried about is you get young kids and they start messing around these buildings. We don't know what's in there. He could have chemicals. And if they break into it and they expose themselves to chemicals, those kids are gonna get hurt. Their health is gonna be at risk.
sir, that's all noted, but again, if construction goes on here, the town will be looking at these things, and I really don't want to get into conjecture and what ifs. But
But
what I can,
you're going to conjecture that your variance is not gonna cause an issue.
but what I
I'm
can,
showing that your variance will cause an issue.
the one thing we can't do is claim that somebody is going to be having chemicals there. We don't know what's stored in these. That's very true. But having these hypotheticals isn't,
Your zoning board can go ahead and have the planning board tell the inspector, the building inspector, to go in there and check it out. Because
no, we can't, sir. So what I'm gonna do at this point, because I think we're reaching the point of diminishing returns with comments here. I appreciate all the input. We are taking that into consideration. I do want to note that the conversation that the board is having at this point
Mhm.
is about combining the properties and not talking about that subdivision that originally was proposed.
you mean
That's one.
as far as the variant with leaving the garage on the side?
As far as the variance.
Okay, I understand.
The question of low power lines from a service pole to a structure, that is something that has to be taken up between the property owner and National Grid, who I assume is the owner of the pole and who's providing the service to the house. So if you have an issue with a line going to your house being too low, that's something you need to take up with them, as opposed to this, because the driveway that's here isn't going to impact that. If the driveway's in the same place where it was before, it's not going to impact that. The question I did ask, though, was the 3 trees that are shown on the survey right now on
Mhm.
this map. Those are all squarely on your property.
Correct.
There are additional there's additional foliage out there that's impinging on the power lines that's not on your property?
No, the other, one goes over the, property line and goes into the power line.
Okay, I appreciate that
And I've
clarification.
gone ahead
Thank you.
and, taken those branches as best I can without knocking out the power and causing an issue.
Okay. So unless you have any other additional comments or concerns, I think I'm gonna.
Well, the other thing
pause.
that I'm concerned about is, okay, you went ahead and said the snow removal. I can see what they're gonna do as far as the parking up top in the, northwest corner. They're just gonna push it forward because that is just, lawn. Well, it's overgrowth and what have you. But my concern is, what are they gonna do with all this? Because if they say they're gonna have a 10-foot barrier there of grass, and they go ahead and they pile up, say you get a big storm, like, the north got, you're gonna go ahead and cause a site problem with 31. And my ex-wife and everybody else has said, the traffic there, he says it's not a problem. He hasn't shown that, what the traffic volume is there. And the thing about it is I went to the Cicero police and talked to them about that, and they say they don't have a car that can go ahead and enforce the reckless driving, the aggressive driving that happens there. It's 35 miles an hour. But the thing about it is you put snow up there on that side of the room, that becomes a barrier for my daughter to get out of her driveway. Because now, if it's over 4 feet, she won't see the oncoming cars. And those cars don't go 35 miles an hour.
How tall is your fence?
How tall is my
How
fence?
tall is the fence?
The fence is, it's a rail fence, and it doesn't go all the way to the road. It sits back about 2 foot from the culvert, and it's a rail, and it's about waist high.
Okay.
3 feet.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
So based on the way this is going, I think we might put a pause on the public comment again. Mr. Coyer, if you want to come up. So I believe the way we were talking about this is that there's a proposal that needs to go back to your client as far as merging the two properties, or a question that needs to be asked at least.
If that's the way the board wants to do, I can ask the applicant again if they want, or the owner. Understand I'm working for the applicant, not
Understood.
necessarily the property owner. We can ask the property owner again, when we did ask them, because I brought it up in the email exchange that was not in favor of combining them. We can ask again, and then obviously where the board's feeling. That's totally fine. Again, I don't want to waste your guys' time. I don't want to sit here and keep putting it on pause. Okay, so with that, is there any variances that are, I guess my first question is, with the first application, do we even have any variances to vote on for that now? That if we are combining them, we shouldn't have any variances to vote on.
So what I was gonna suggest is that, I'm sorry, go.
Side, right?
But that's a second.
Right, but
That's
that's a
second
separate one.
First variance.
So what I was gonna suggest is that if you're amenable to taking it back, I'm gonna close the public hearing.
Yeah, we'll just table that.
And
that
then,
first.
and then if the applicant's willing to combine everything, then this goes
It
away
goes
and
away. Okay,
we
perfect.
don't need
I
to
guess that's where I was.
ever talk about this again.
Close it or remain open? I'm sorry, I thought you said you're gonna let it remain open.
I'm
first.
thinking about if don't we have to close it if we're going to get rid of it next meeting?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna close the public hearing. If we have to come back, we'll figure it out. We'll reopen
Not a
it.
problem.
So we're going to, this is potentially deferred to our next meeting pending any response from your applicant.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, the second case tonight is a continuation of our December 2nd case for applicant Bob Totlars for an area variance related to a proposed sign for a property on 5703 State Route 31.
So, Tim Coy, I who's your own.
Hi, Tim.
So this is where, and I'll just be. No, this is totally. Yeah. So this is where the existing sign sits today. Right, and if you pay attention, this is the existing road boundary, so the existing sign is in the public right of way as it sits today. So we're looking to move it back into this location, 16 feet off the property line. The only reason we're not pushing even farther back is, again, you got existing foliage on both sides, so it's gonna be very, very hard to see it even now. So we're trying to keep it as close forward as possible and still have some buffer between the curbing and all that.
So I think on this one, we had another, yeah, we've got the county planning board again.
You get a separate county comment for this one?
They might have actually been together. Let me just,
Is the existing sign lighted? I don't go down that way much at night.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I apologize. It looks like they're combined. So the comments are still the same on the.
Yeah.
So I believe the standard is 20, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is the 4 feet? I feel like I'm giving you a really hard time tonight, but is the 4 feet really necessary to, is it gonna make that big of a difference?
Is it gonna make that much big of it? I guess it is what it is at this point, but, so originally we were gonna try and push the sign closer, okay? So this drive-through here wasn't part of the original plan to have this through here, but the fire department needed it. So we were gonna move the sign from like right here to like right here. And because the department dictated that they wanted this drive-through, we had to push it even farther back. So that's why we came up with 16 and not something closer. I guess if the board has a problem with the 16 feet and, it is what it is, we'll have to push it back to 20.
Tim, for congregation of 7 or 8 or whatever the number is, I
Mhm.
mean, is the sign really needed? I think they know where they're going, right? When they,
Yes, this is, just understand that also, someday in the future, if this is not a church, we don't have to come back again for another sign variance. That's also for the property owner wants to have the sign in the moved. We got to move the sign no matter what. Site plan can't move forward with the sign sitting out here. So no matter what, if we don't get a variance, we have to push the sign back to 4 feet. It is what it is. But that's why we put it at 16. No, it's probably not the worst case if they don't have the sign out front.
Right.
But if they're gonna build a sign, again, the property owner is responsible for building the sign and he would rather put it as close to the road as possible.
okay, well, that
So
helps clarify the
yeah,
desire.
I think one of the, well, I know one of the concerns the county had was that the potential for future development here on the 31 corridor could change that entire situation there in that lot line, which then now all of a sudden the sign that's 16 feet
Back
could
on the
be
road again.
less than that. Again, I'm not sure if 4 feet really makes a lot of difference either way.
Wasn't there a situation a couple years ago where we had people moving signs because of the road widening on Route 11, I think it was?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like you're saying, it might end up in that same situation.
Yeah.
Tim, this is, it's lit from above. It's not like backlit, right?
Correct.
Not like an LED sign or anything. It's like, it has like a sconce light or something over top of it.
Correct. Just going back, like this is the original road boundary.
Yeah.
Now the road boundary's back here. So where the sign was met code at the 20 feet. But because the state has taken the property, it keeps pushing that requirement farther back.
Tim, there's another sign to the east of this location. Did you happen to measure where that one is?
I did not.
In other words, is it gonna look that weird to have a sign there because, you know, the guy next door is in the same place or closer? You don't know?
I don't know off the top of my head, no.
Is that the sign for his other property,
There-
the jujitsu places?
That's on the other side.
That's the other side of the road, but there is
No,
something
no, no,
to
no,
the
no,
east
no,
here.
no, you're talking about Cry John. No, they had it, he has another building where a sign was
Oh.
put and it was 20 feet
That
back and
used to be,
he had, like a martial arts,
Is it
person
20
occupied.
feet?
It-
I mean,
Yeah,
so
well, that's
it's-
where it was supposed to be, yeah.
so it's at, okay, so this would look weird.
Well, I don't know how weird, they're separated from a distance. I'm assuming you're talking about the same place I am, but I don't know if that was right next door or not. It's further west, I think.
Oh, further west.
I thought it was east, the one I'm thinking of.
What else? Okay, we'll keep thinking. We'll go to the public hearing. So at this time, I will open the public hearing, and just as a reminder for everybody here, this is specifically about the sign, not about subdivisions or buildings or anything like that. So at this time, I'm opening the public hearing. Would anyone speak for this? Would anyone speak against this? Sir, you're gonna have to come up and talk if you're gonna, and this is about the sign. Okay.
Okay, the sign is not lit at this time. It was supposed to be moved and it never was. The present owner was, told about it and did no action. And he says 4 feet doesn't matter. How wide is the car? Micron's coming to the area. Okay, that sign now will be in the right of way going westbound. And if you have somebody pull out on somebody, where are they gonna go? Are they gonna hit that car? Or are they gonna have to veer off the road? They're gonna go right into that sign.
Sir, if the sign's in the right of way, there's going to be a lot more going on with the state as far as relocations and reconfiguration of this. They would not allow that to
If we're giving the
sit.
variance to a landowner to bring it closer to the road. Because 20 feet, if I recollect correctly, is what you said was the variance. I mean,
No,
what was the,
20 feet is the standard. We would
standard,
allow them
right,
to be
correct.
4 feet closer or 16 feet from the road line, which isn't down here, it's up here.
exactly.
Right.
Right,
From
you're
here.
moving it back, so it's 16 feet.
To here.
And you need the variance to justify being not in compliance with the 20 feet. And all I'm saying is that, okay, I was a tractor trailer driver. Somebody pulled out on me, I don't want to kill them. I'm gonna go off the road. And 4 feet could be the difference between me missing a sign and damaging my vehicle or even a car. And I don't see why you would want to go ahead and do that. And the thing about it is that great big tree there, that's a pine. And the branches are 10 feet off the ground. So you can see his sign going westbound without any obstruction as it presently sits in there. The other two are smaller pines that sit off, and if he went back to 20 feet, it would still be able to be seen going westbound.
Thank you for your input. Would anyone else speak against this? At this time, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Coyer, if you want to come back up. Does the board have any other questions? Go ahead, Mr.
Consider it
Rob.
20 feet. I mean, I'm just trying to, I don't know that makes a hill of beans worth of difference, right? I get what you said earlier, but my opinion.
I would tend to agree with that. Okay.
Yep.
So the informal poll of at least what I think the majority of the board is pointing more towards 20. So there's two ways we can do this. You can either withdraw.
Yep.
Or we can go through a formal
Yep. So,
denial.
just understand to the board, didn't come in here just for the sign, so the sign was added to the other application, so it's not like I'm trying to waste the board's time and ask for a 4 foot.
Oh, no, Mr. Coyer, we
Oh,
don't
worry.
see
No, no,
that
no,
at all.
I'm just explaining why we came in for,
Yeah.
I understand that the 4 foot variance is, in theory, you could always push it to
You
12.
can blame it on Steve. It's fine.
But that's fine. If the board, it is what it is. With that being said, I will pull at this application as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate the board's time.
Thank you for your time tonight. Okay, so with that, this case is closed. I closed the public hearing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Our third and final case tonight is an application for an area variance for a property on the southeast corner of McKinley and Party Roads. It's tax map number 0920125.0. The owner and applicant is Joseph Verdi. Are you Mr. Verdi?
I'm not, I'm Julian Clark with Plumley Engineering.
Okay.
We're here tonight.
Let me just- So the one thing I did want to, you are in possession of the Onondaga County Planning Board resolution.
Yes.
So I wanted to make sure we focus on this because we have a unique situation here where the county planning board recommended disapproval. And I'm assuming everybody took a look at that. So before I go through their reasoning, I just want to make sure that the board is aware that to override a resolution, we need a supermajority, which is going to be 4 out of 5 of us have to vote in the affirmative, assuming we do go forward with a motion to approve. So with that said, the county planning board has listed the following reasons in support of their disapproval. First is the applicant is requesting significant reductions to front yard setbacks along county and town roadways in a location which may be subject to modifications and increased traffic in coming years. Multiple buildings, paved areas, offices, and wastewater treatment facilities are all proposed within established setbacks. Variances to allow such significant encroachment within the established setbacks is not endorsed by the board or the New York State and Onondaga County Departments of Transportation. The second, the applicant must coordinate with the Onondaga County Department of Transportation regarding location of proposed driveway accesses and may be required to relocate site access to McKinley Road. Third, site plan shows significant encroachment of driveway entrances, roadways, and paved driving surfaces within the Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation, now National Grid, and New York State Power Authority rights of way, which contains regional scale electric transmission infrastructure. The town must ensure plan review and approval from National Grid and New York State Power Authority prior to any local approvals for this project. The fourth and final point is the site plan shows substantial encroachment of buildings and paved surfaces and a roadway crossing within the New York State wetland buffer area. The applicant is advised to revise plans to further minimize encroachment and disturbance in these areas. So the county planning board further advised us that these are potential significant issues with the proposed site plan and also advises the applicant and the town to coordinate further with related agencies, adjust the site plan accordingly prior to consideration of proposed variances or other zoning actions. So with all that taken into account, if you could please describe your project and the reasoning behind the variance requests, we'd appreciate it.
Verity is proposing a self-storage facility on the property. It will be 7 buildings with self-storage units within them. So he's also proposing a cold storage building and an indoor storage building. We'll have a small office which will employ 1 or 2 people. Control facility without being gravel outdoor storage. We have been in contact with both National Grid and New York State Power Authority. They conceptually okayed this layout work within their easements. I have emails to that effect pretty much. We sent the plan to Onondaga County DOT when we presented this plan to the planning board over a year ago. Their only comment was to go ahead and apply for your permit, send in your slip, et cetera, et cetera. We did ask about the required setback from the first driveway on Part E from McKinley, and their requirement was that it had to be 75 feet away from the intersection. Our driveway is 140 feet away from the intersection. We've also completed an official wetland delineation, which has been accepted by the DEC. We met the DEC on site to review it, and they didn't raise any huge alarms. Again, we're only disturbing the buffer, we're not disturbing the wetlands themselves. And there is some discussion actually as to whether the wetland under the power easements would either be the jurisdiction of the DEC. They might turn it over to the Army Corps of Engineers, who do not have a 100-foot buffer. We're ready to submit a permit package to the DEC/Army Corps of Engineers when ready. Kind of a balancing act of who will get approval from the state. As far as the variance goes, we're requesting a front yard setback variance from McKinley. We currently, because it's a corner lot, there's 2 75-foot front yard setbacks. We're requesting a variance to provide the climate control building within 30 feet of the right of way, self-storage unit 45 feet. We're also requesting a front yard setback from Part E. The office building would be 15 feet from the right of way, and setback 75 feet. Plus or minus 25 feet from the right of way. And then we also have a rear yard setback requirement request for 2 feet from the property line for a setback of 25 feet for rear yard. So that I think we can do away with, because I talked to Mr. Verity. He owns this property here. He's willing to combine the lots. That would make the rear yard go away. We did propose a extensive screening along McKinley Drive. We also don't propose any driveways on McKinley, so we thought that would soften the issue a little. As far as future development, we will note that I-81 is just below Part E Road, so we don't see much development in that direction. There's also, it looks like the county's already taken land along Part E, because there's about 40 feet of land between the right of way and the edge of pavement. So there's already a substantial setback from the edge of pavement from what you normally see, which is about 16 feet for a 60-foot right of way and a 28-foot road.
Steve, do we know what even just roughly what future plans are here? Because I know there's been talk of exits and
Just what's been
overpasses and-
publicized, from SMTC relative to a interchange at RD for 81.
And-
access to 11.
And that would be up around the McKinley area?
Well, I've seen it in the
Other
McKinley area
options.
and then further north. So but it's not fully known
Right.
at this time.
What questions?
Why are you citing the office so close to the right of way? Why not hit the full setback on the office?
Because we're the 100-foot wetland buffer that we're trying to avoid.
Ah, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Whatever it is, it's right on my crease.
If you're gonna combine the lots, couldn't you push it all back?
Combining lots isn't going to move the 100-foot wetland buffer, so we'll still have to deal with that.
No, I mean, you've got all this land back here. I don't know exactly where it goes, but behind the property.
Oh,
Can't-
thing.
Can't the office building be relocated there? if you're gonna combine them anyway.
Can I come on or?
Yeah, you're
So-
more than welcome to come
Okay,
up.
Joe Verdi. So we're trying to put the office building, it's approachability. When you pull in, the office building's gotta be your first thing that you stop in and meet the customer and before they're a customer and access and that really puts you, that's why we put it out there is to get it so that it's out to the front and be accessible so that if you put it farther back, it's just deeper into the
not-
property that the customer has to come to approach
Understood.
our, proper facility managers on site.
But another point I wanted to bring up too, is there's currently electric tower on the property that's only 15 feet from the right of way too, so we're not really encroaching that much closer to the,
Make sure you're using the microphone.
sorry. We're not really encroaching that much closer to the right of way than what the electric towers currently are.
Okay. Real tough lot to build on.
Yeah, it feels like you're asking a lot more from this lot than it can give you. I mean, the way you've got the self-storage units laid out, I get why you're trying to do, it. You're trying to maximize your space, but oof. I mean, may want to think about less buildings and rotated 90 degrees or however many degrees to get the setback you need,
Or just shorter buildings.
or whatever, shorter buildings, either way.
I mean, I'm assuming there was obviously there's some forethought into this about the density and, what is going to be profitable
Right,
for
number of
this venture.
Square footage available storage, rentable storage versus.
And we were also really kind of, going up to McKinley, we wanted, rather than having, like you're saying, turn the building the other way, we looked at that.
Yeah.
But we didn't want it to look just like a wall, like I was kind of, disappointed like a big warehouse look or a junkyard fence look or whatever. We didn't want it to be just a big, blue wall or big gray wall going up McKinley when people are coming to McKinley. So when we laid it out like this, that we are limited to this area up here, and this is gonna be a nice mowed grass area like it is now. But we try to landscape that side so that like, as the residents of McKinley come up McKinley, that they're not looking at just a big old fence or, side of a building. That
The
nature.
buildings would be 20 feet high. Is that your plan?
No, they're
Only 8 or 9, right?
10 to 12. They're a low pitch roof.
Okay. I think it said 20 feet on the drawing, but maybe I misread it.
Yep, that can still be a low pitch roof or whatever. So the climate control could be a little bit taller, whatever. We could
Okay.
do something to make it, look a little bit nicer. Sometimes make it taller, make something, more cosmetic out of it. That. And if like one concern is if it is, like, there's a front yard, because that's the other challenge we, had is the front, we have 2 front yards, so we're working with that configuration, which, made 2 front yard setbacks. I mean, if you said, hey, look, we can't do Part D, and we can only do McKinley, like, we can look at that and we could analyze that to, because we got the one climate control building, we could do something different with the office. We were talking earlier today, we could try to move the office back some more. To where it is, the storage area there, and shape the office a little bit different or something there. So we're not, encroaching on that. We could shrink the size of that office down or completely remove the office off of that southern side there. To meet the Part D setback. We're accommodating to that.
I know you had mentioned combining the 2 lots. I don't know how much you own to the east of this, but would it be possible to push the whole setup back if you did that? And eliminate the need for a variance on Part E at all?
No, he doesn't own up to McKinley. He only.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but we could get it so that we don't have a variance for or for Part D. It's only the variance for McKinley.
does.
So
Yeah.
same,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
yes, but no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
understood.
Suppose you put the office on the corner and the climate controlled storage back on your back property.
That was one idea that we had looked at one point. The climate controlled storage, The way we do that now is it's glass door, glass windows and like you can see into it, whatever. So having that up in front, it looks good. So it's, it's appealing and people can see what it is and that kind of stuff. So that's why we kind of chose to put that. And then also with the utilities of the climate control storage, you have, the heat and HVAC systems that are in there. So we wanted to keep that concealed in that one building rather than having it in multiple buildings.
Is the glass vestibule on all sides, all four sides of the climate control storage?
It would be two sides.
Which ones?
So, southern and, western. And then we could probably do the northern, one to open that up, so that they could see it from, from the corner of McKinley there to make it more appealing.
You have plans for the neighboring 7 acres or so? Cause I noticed that has access to McKinley. Sorry, I gotta sneeze.
We don't have any plans.
Don't have
yet
any
right
plans
now.
at this time, cause that's also zoned industrial, I believe.
That's correct.
It still has the power line.
Right. No, I can see that. Yeah.
I'd have to believe you're gonna run into more wetlands on that lot. Too, I think, right?
There is, yes, there
Yeah,
is a.
probably
stretch
right.
of wetlands
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, the southern piece of that, correct.
What's the access to that lot, that existing gravel drive on the plan? Is that the access to that rear property?
That, and there's also, it joins up against McKinley. There's,
Oh, there's another driveway. Okay.
there's access, yep, there's no ownership to McKinley.
Got you.
This access here is that thing.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
Oh,
There's
got you. There it
McKinley.
is. Okay.
What else?
I mean, if you shorten the buildings to comply with the setback, you'd lose, I don't know, 6,000 square feet of storage space, somewhere in that ballpark. Just a rough guesstimate.
Yeah, we figured about 39 units if they were 10 foot wide.
Okay.
Maybe you said it, I missed it, but having seen the tax map now, why aren't you using the property to the east a little bit more? It's a pretty significant piece of land. Oh, yeah, up there.
No particular reason. I mean,
Oh, the properties here are residences. Maybe they don't wanna
I mean,
pile the stuff on top of the back of the residence.
yeah, I mean, in essence, that's part of it. I mean, because in order to do that, yes, I mean, and we'd have extra, we'd have to start putting driveways off of McKinley and there's, like it's between two houses and that, I mean, we could look at that. I guess it would be a different layout.
But,
to
right,
wrap around.
but you have a driveway on the plan that effectively goes to that back property from Part E, right? Right.
No, well, it goes to the edge of that property, but I mean, the homes are up in this corner here.
Sure, no, I got that.
So, I mean, if we utilize the parcel that's back there, then we're gonna be encroaching more onto them homes,
I'm
more-
talking, come this way. I'll use that whole area where his hand is.
Oh, yep, utilize more of this here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, we were kind of focused on this property.
No, I know, and that's, I guess my opinion is we're trying to do too much on this little corner, so it's my opinion.
I also share some of those concerns about trying to fit too much into this space. I also worry, because that's my job a little bit. I worry a little bit about future development here and what that might mean if there's some development with 81 here that has to go involve McKinley and Pardee, that all of a sudden now we have just authorized a whole bunch of structures that are now going to have to get relocated to be able to accommodate any future plans there. But again, that's just my concern.
Lots of talk of what.
There's like, yeah,
Yeah.
there
Oh,
is
yeah.
lots of talk. Unfortunately, it doesn't make anybody's job easier. So if there's no questions or comments at this point, I'll go to the public hearing. think a little bit more about this and we'll come back. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone speak for this? Would anyone speak against this? Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing.
I mean,
What else?
I kind of would love to see some sketches or at least some ideas of, the buildings maybe positioned maybe on the other piece of property, right? Something that, where we're not giving up, I didn't do the math, 80% of or 70% of the setback, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did do so what we're talking about is, on McKinley Road, we'd be looking for 80%, an 80% variance on the 75 feet. 60% for party. And then obviously the rear one is 92% because it's 23 feet out of 25 feet that we'd be asking for.
You did talk about making the rear one go away by combining two lots, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's,
I mean,
A lot more.
right, that's a lot more.
I guess if that's an option and there's willingness, I think if there's willingness on the applicant's part, I think you're seeing the board here may be more inclined to consider this if we include the other property with it. I can see some advantages to that.
Yeah, I don't have an issue necessarily with Part E because nothing really is gonna happen in that little section of Part E, but the inland setback is quite substantial. And it is used a lot by the residences that live in that area.
How are we feeling? Otherwise,
I think, I mean, I don't know exactly how that process works, but with that, obviously reworks these plans, that would go back to county planning and then they might not have such large concerns about it.
There were significant changes, certainly can send it back. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, I think we've addressed the three of them. I don't know if they'll ever go back on their first one where. Well, I guess if we're not gonna have significant reduction. Okay, yeah, maybe. I think they still might hit that first one.
is that something you're willing to do?
So are you suggesting that you'll give some setback accommodations on McKinley or not any?
I mean, my personal opinion is you're asking too much out of that. And I'm not sure what more, as Mr. Bick mentioned, any kind of reduction there is going to severely impact your storage capability. Just seems like.
No, yeah,
What do you mean storage?
if you comply with the existing setback, you're gonna lose a
Oh,
reasonable portion of your storage / revenue, which is, maybe prohibitive to the project to some extent. So I would agree with Chuck in that the 80% is a little high. If they could come back with something that was more reasonable than that, I think that might work for us. At least for me.
I guess I'd like to see that it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah,
I'd be-
I'd like to see some sketches of utilizing the other piece of property as well.
I mean, I think you could make that indoor storage building you could make that larger or another building back here to accommodate for loss of storage over here.
Yeah, you could do that. You could move the storage and office to where the climate controlled building is, unless you feel that's like a PR move, having that climate controlled building right there on the road. That I'm not in this business, so I don't know.
Yep.
But these two small buildings could be moved up into here and possibly the climate controlled could be moved back in here. If these buildings were set back, just what would you think would be a reasonable percentage? I mean, we don't usually
I'm
grant
not sure I'm the
80%
person to
variance.
ask for that because I'm not exactly liking
Yeah.
Okay,
the proximity at all.
I mean,
gotcha.
could you guys figure out whatever area it is that you lose by getting to the 75-yard front setback off McKinley, right? I think, Rob, you said it was 6,000 square feet or something like that.
About 39 units.
You said 30, yeah.
Whatever.
So It's
Could you-
substantial.
Could you put a building of that size where the gravel storage area was and move the gravel storage area to the east? You know, really start trying to do some checkerboard moves with your buildings to minimize the amount of,
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
absolutely something we could
Okay,
look at.
all right,
I mean,
that's-
I guess just, like we played a checkboard with this.
I'm sure you have.
I mean, yeah, for a year or so, whatever, with, because, everybody would go to like the county, like say, take it back to the county.
Yeah.
The county's gonna come back with a handful of things again. We've been with NICEAG and National Grid.
We don't have the benefit of all those discussions, right?
Yeah,
So now,
so-
now we're looking at it, playing our
Now, yeah,
game.
now we're a third person
Yeah.
looking at it going, hey, look, how about you throw it up and shuffle
Right.
again?
Correct.
So I guess if, if we're not, if you prefer not to give us a variance for, a setback off of McKinley, then we'll just look at the plan and decide, like, if we don't, if we just basically take it off the table, I guess, and look at it to build it without the, without the setback, without the variance off of McKinley.
But you think the variance off of Part E might be something you'd be willing to discuss more?
I'm okay with that. The rest of the board, I'm not 100% sure, simply because the tower is already there.
I'm more okay with it than I am with being right up against McKinley, as close as you are to McKinley.
Yeah, to me,
Already-
that's minor compared to the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to take those into consideration, I can defer this till our February third meeting. Would that give you enough time to take a look at things?
He's got to answer that.
Yeah, no, I know.
I could say yes with no problem, but he's got to draw it on, do stuff, so.
No, we can put our heads together and. So we can know more about that.
I was intrigued by your description of that climate controlled storage being all windows. Does that have to be a rectangular box? Can you make it fit within that and not be a perfect rectangle?
We've,
Or do you want them to be all boxes?
It's
so
prefab,
that-
isn't it?
it's still, yep, still
Yeah.
rector set kind of
Yeah.
style or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and then with your standing seam roof, we looked at an ideal of making it triangular and doing something neat with her. But, it gets really challenging with a standing seam roof to try to get it seamed up and have it one piece and, leak proof, not leak proof, but leakless,
Gotcha.
so,
Okay,
Yeah.
just an idea.
it'd be difficult, so.
Okay.
So I guess if we edit it so that we change our setbacks on this a little bit, and then the rear variance, so would you want us to merge it together, or like?
Or you
that
could
rear
just take a
setback?
piece of it. If you didn't want to merge the whole thing, you could cut a piece of it off.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I've got no problem, like I said, just one continuous property, or whatever, as far as ownership, I own both properties and that, so I mean, we could merge that together and then kind of take that off the table and that, so.
All right.
This would have to go back to county or,
Yeah. I guess
Mm.
I just wonder how much time do I have to get you guys?
Well, Steve, how do you feel about that? Can we? Because we're theoretically addressing some of the county's
your answer.
concerns.
Yeah, so perhaps no. I mean, I guess we'll have to see it first and we can always make that decision.
Because I think what we're saying is let's get it back in front of us. We'll take a look at it. If we feel it has to go to the county, we'll push it on, but if not, we may be in a position to make a
Do
decision.
you want to go back to visit once you make changes before you come here, go back and visit the planning board again once, because it's been a long time since you've been to the planning board.
Well, I think anything we're doing, it's gotta improve with the planning.
Yeah,
board view.
Yeah, I just
No,
put it
I'm-
out there.
I'm
Yeah.
talking out there.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The planning board might want to see that site plan before we,
They knew right away. You only were once, I think, before the planning board, and they were right away, like, you're gonna need some significant variances, so
okay.
a lot of time went
Don't
by,
go
and
back to us.
here we are.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
And it's pretty much the same thing the county did or whatever. Hey, you gotta get with NICEAG,
Yeah.
you gotta get a variance
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. But if you're able to go back to them after you come back with something significantly less, substantial in this, then I understand what you're saying. They're probably gonna be more amenable to it, absolutely.
Consider, yeah.
All right. So with that, I'm going to defer this to our February 3rd, 2025 meeting. I'm going to leave the public hearing open also. Just note that I closed it. Need to reopen that. Do I have a second for the deferment
So-
And reopening.
and reopening?
Oh, you reopen it?
Second for closing and reopening?
Yes.
I'll second that too.
If you could make sense out of that, if you call the roll, please.
Somebody tell me.
So the motion to defer was made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Rabia, and the vote, Mr. Rabia,
Yes, the motion.
Ms. Luckett,
Yes, the motion.
Mr. Bick,
Yes to the motion?
Mr. Mays,
Yes, the motion.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes to the motion. And that also includes the reopening of the public hearing. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As I noted, our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 3rd. Does anybody else have any other business before the board? There being no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. By Mr. Bick,
I'll
do I
second.
second? Mr. Mays, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
It's like empty calories. Which one?
Church. Church and residential. I don't like that idea.
Means no